Today I'm going to be working on my range hood. There's two problems I'm trying to solve. The first is that this is set up to just recirculate air. It's not vented anywhere, which honestly I don't even know why people install them like this. Like they do nothing. So I'm going to vent it out through the roof. And the second issue I'm trying to solve is, well, it's just way too loud. We never use it because we can never hold a conversation while it's on. So I wouldn't be posting this video if I was going to do this, normal. So there's two things about this that are a little out of the ordinary. First, to solve the noise issue, rather than trying to find a quieter motor or replacing the entire range hood with a quieter model, I'm going to use an inline fan and put that in the attic, and then still use the controls from here to control it. The second issue I'm going to have is that I want to vent it out the wall and then go up, rather than going straight up through the top, because I don't want to lose any covered space. Now I know I wouldn't lose too much, but we don't want to lose any. Now the problem with that is there is a stud right here, right in the middle of where we need to vent out. So I'll show you how I'm going to deal with that. So let's get started.
With the breaker off, I started by removing the cover and disconnecting all of the electrical connections in the range hood. I capped the wires from the wall, just in case the breaker gets turned on accidentally. Since I'm not using the fan motor that's in here, I took it out. The electrical connections are permanent, so I had to cut the wires to take it out. I unscrewed the fan, unscrewed the hood from the cabinets, and took the whole thing down. I also ended up removing a couple rows of the tile so the hood would sit flush against the wall when I put it back up. I'm planning to replace the backsplash at some point anyway, since the previous owner of this house did a horrifying job of installing this tile. They even put it over the white tile that probably looked better than what they did. But anyway, I punched a hole in the wall back there, and you see what I mean about the stud being in the way. So here's my plan. I'll reuse the hood. I'll go into two 4-inch duct elbows, into two 4-inch flex ducts. Then up in the attic, I'll bring both sides together in this Y that'll go into 4-inch insulated flex duct, which connects to the inline fan, back into insulated duct before it goes out through the roof. I do have a couple things going for me. One was that this house was a modular home. It was built in two pieces, brought in on trucks, and bolted together on site. This wall is where the two halves were bolted together, so this is a double wall. I have about 9 inches between the drywall, lots of room for the ducts. But even if you have a single 3.5-inch wall, you can still feed 4-inch flex ducts down the wall. It'll just be a little squished and harder to feed down the wall, but it's doable. The other thing is that I have the benefit of a bulkhead above the cabinets. It's difficult and probably a bad idea to cut out the header at the top of the wall to bring the duct straight up the wall into the attic, so I'm going to bring the duct back over the cabinets in the bulkhead before going into the attic. Since we need to start in the attic, let me show you a trick to find where we need to be in the attic. Use a laser measure. They're not terribly expensive, but super handy. I'll put a link in the description of this video to where you can buy one. I'm standing in my kitchen where I have a clear shot to the outside wall. I line myself up in front of my stove and take a measurement. That's about 184 inches. And now I head up to the attic, unfortunately. A mask is a really good idea here. I, for one, can't tolerate breathing that insulation for any length of time before I start coughing. So I walk along the length of the house and take measurements until I'm close to the measurement I took downstairs, and I know that I'll be above the stove. Now I can start moving insulation out of the way to get at the area I need to work in. This will be right above the bulkhead above my range hood. I'll start by cutting through the vapor barrier, but making sure I make clean lines since I'm going to have to tape this back up after. Then cut through the drywall. Now I'm into the bulkhead. I'll cut into the wall too, since that's where I'm going to want to feed the flex vent. I did the same thing on both sides so I can feed the flex vent on either side of the stud. Now I start feeding the flex vent down the one side and connect it to the Y and fasten it so I don't lose my pipe down the wall when I'm not looking. And of course doing the same thing on the other side. This is about where the Y will sit. Now, here's the other crazy thing I did. I suspended the fan using rubber tie-downs so the vibration from the fan wouldn't travel through the wood. Yeah, that's how much I hate unnecessary noise. Now we need a hole in the roof. I used the roof vent as a template to mark the size of the hole. I started it off with a drill so I could get a blade in, and finished it off with a sawzall. After the roof vent is on the roof, I attached the 6-inch insulated flex vent to the roof vent. I taped and clamped the vent pipe itself, then taped up the insulation with sheathing tape to act as a vapor barrier. Now that it's hanging there, I can cut it to size and attach it to the fan the same way. The bottom section is much the same story. I attached it to the top first with a pipe clamp and tape, then taped the insulation. Same story down below. Now that the vent is hooked up, I can look at the electrical. Once the cover is off, I need to feed my wire through the rubber grommet. I'm using 14-3 wire for this. 1 wire for the high speed, 1 for the low. Remember which color you used for high and which for low. This doesn't use a ground wire since the outside of the fan is plastic. I taped up the vapor barrier at the ceiling, replaced the insulation, and I'm all done in the attic. Back downstairs, I need to make holes in the back of my hood. I've marked where the stud is, so the vents will come in on either side. Since the stud isn't actually dead center, the one will end up being oval rather than round. I thought I could cut the one side with a hole saw, but I really didn't have the right hole saw for it, so it just didn't work. I ended up using my rotary tool. Back at the wall, this is what I have. Clearly, these need to be cut. I was a little nervous at this point because I wanted these as short as possible to promote good airflow, but of course not too short. But once cut, I put the elbow on. After doing the same thing on the other side and mounting the hood, this is what I have. You can see I cut tabs in the vent pipe that I bent down to hold it in place. Hooking up the electrical, I started with what I thought I decided would be the low-speed wire. Turns out I got that wrong. Then what should have been the high-speed wire. All the neutral wires get tied together. Then the remaining 2 wires are tied together, which is the hot wire coming from the electrical panel. I didn't show it here, but I did put the cover back over the wires.
So that's it. It's all done. So last thing is just turn it on and make sure it works properly. So this is the high speed. That's about as loud as it's going to get. Really, all you can hear is the sound of the air moving. I don't hear anything from the motor itself. So I'm really happy with the way that it worked out. I can feel the air moving through. And it's definitely got good suction. I can put a piece of paper there. It sticks quite well. So it's definitely sucking quite a bit of air through. So I'm really happy with the way this turned out. We've been using it for about a week now, and we can actually have conversations in the kitchen while this thing is on. So I hope you found this helpful in doing the same job in your place. Until next time, guys, take care.